show her, by the way. Can we have a show of hands who's a PC? Just to let you know that an awful lot of us are PCs. Okay? Well, we have a special guest who came from far, freedom-loving Sheriff, Sheriff Mark Lamb of Pinal County.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate you having me up here today. It was well worth the trip. Because that's like my peaceful time, is getting in the truck and driving. So, how many of you have ever heard me speak before? A couple of you? Good, because I'm going to tell a story. That way you won't have heard it before, except for Penny. It's a sheriff story. You got this, they were campaign season, and they were going from town to town in these buses. And all these politicians pile on the bus, and they're going from town to town out in these rural communities. Well, the bus left town, but didn't make it to the next town. Somewhere along the line, the bus had crashed. And it crashed on this old farmer's road. So he goes out, sees the bus crash, the bodies laying everywhere, and he takes all the bodies and puts them in a hole out back of his farm. Well, the sheriff all of a sudden wonders why the bus never showed up. So he goes out, and he finds the bus, and he asks the old farmer, Bill, did you see this bus wreck? And he's like, well, I saw a wreck out here. And he says, well, what happened? What happened to all the people? He says, well, I took them and put them in the pit out back. And he says, well, were they all dead? And he says, well, some were saying they were alive, but they're politicians. You can't trust them. It reminded me of that when you said that earlier. I'm not a politician, okay? So what I'm going to say today, hopefully you will trust. Because I'm telling you right now, we talked about this earlier to one of you, truth is very hard to find. Especially on social media, the mainstream media, you're just not going to find the truth. You've got to really dig, you've got to be open-minded. That's the truth. And you know what? I'm going to be the first to tell you that some truth you're not going to like. That's the reality of it. We have a problem, and we need to be careful that we don't do what other people do, which is when we like it, we love it. When we don't like it. We talk crap about it. And sometimes you have to be open-minded enough to accept the fact that there is this middle ground that you've got to find. And that's what we've got to do a better job of here in America, is coming on that middle ground as Americans as opposed to settling ourselves far to one side. Now, I'm as conservative as they come, but I'm also a pragmatic person. I'm an open-minded person, and I understand that things don't always, they're not clear black and white. So I want to talk to you about things that I think are major issues. I'm going to talk about 4 things today that I think are major issues in this country. First of all, I want to talk about something that I was, during the campaign trail, I started going out and speaking more and more. McSally and a few other, they would have me come out and speak at these people's houses, and I never raised any money with it, but they seemed to raise a ton of money with it. I always joked with my wife, you know that old monkey with the 2 cymbals clanging them together? That's what I was. I was the monkey they would bring out to the show and entertain. But I loved going out and speaking to the people, and I love being able to share the truths that I see out there, as it relates to law enforcement, at least, in Arizona and in our communities. I was starting to say all along, I said that we're facing a major issue. And when I went to the White House, I was fortunate to go to the White House for the Christmas party. I don't know that I'm going to get invited back. But I went to the White House for the Christmas party, and while my wife was getting ready, I earlier in the day had a meeting with about 6 sheriffs. And then we were there with some of Trump's cabinet. And we were talking about different issues, and at the end he says, the issue that I see being the major issue that you will face in law enforcement over the next 4, 8, 12 years is the rule of law. Yeah. And that's what I had been saying for a while. The rule of law. There are other countries in this world that have constitutions, that are democracies, but they're not as successful because, or they haven't succeeded or don't have the track record we do because we are a country of law and order. We have respected that rule of law for a long time. Well, guess what? That's not the case anymore. Our government is leading by example of not respecting the rule of law. they want to pick and choose which laws apply. I've been accused of this. I've been accused of this back when the governor wanted to pass a mask, wanted to tell everybody that we were going to keep businesses closed, and if you went out and opened your business, that you were going to be arrested or cited or fined. And I was like, no, we're not. Yeah, clap for that. We were never consulted about that. As a matter of fact, in the whole year, and this is not I'm not trying to demean the position of the governor or the governor's office. They had been facing a lot of challenges last year that none of us wished on anybody. But we were never talked to. We've still, in this entire last year, never had a sit down with the governor as sheriffs. And when you're telling people that we're going to go out and arrest people, I had a problem with that. For one, I just felt like it was a complete intrusion on their rights. So when I did that, people said, well, you're not upholding the law. And I said, I am upholding the law. Those are orders, or they are mandates. They are not laws. So I had people call my office, and I called them back, and I said, go, and they vented to me, and at the end I said, well, let me tell you, I am doing my job. I swore an oath to the Constitution. I'm enforcing the law. And per these mandates anyway, these orders, you can warn them 1,000 times. You don't have to cite anybody. I can continue to tell you over and over that you should take precautions, and that is well within the rights as the sheriff. So I was the one that was actually upholding the law and fighting for the people. And so we have politicians who are truly not upholding the law, the Constitution. And I'm going to talk about immigration in a little bit, but that's one of the most definitive examples right now of them not enforcing the law in one area and expecting the rest of us to follow all the laws. But I'm going to talk about that. It's the deterioration we saw over the last year of the tolerance to the rioting, the looting, the defund the police. Who here thinks, and don't raise your hand, who here thinks that defunding the police is a good idea? It's a terrible idea. And let me tell you, most Americans do not subscribe to this. That's the thing, is you have to understand what you're hearing on the media. Don't get frustrated. I'm going to talk about some things that are going to make you feel a little bit like things are not good. But in the end, I'm going to bring it back with some hope, because Napoleon Bonaparte said it best. He had a lot of great quotes, by the way. Napoleon says that leaders are dealers in hope. So I'm going to bring some hope at the end. But this defunding the police notion is absolutely ludicrous. In reality, if you want to fix the issues with law enforcement, the issues that I believe are not as great as they say they are, and it is unfair to throw a blanket on the entire country of law enforcement to impugn us all for the actions of a few. Because there are a lot of agencies doing it well. Just like I would not impugn a race of people for the actions of one person. If one guy robs a bank, I don't say that whole race are bank robbers. Why in the world would you say that it's okay that all police are bad because of the actions of a few? And mind you, most of the time it's the media that is the judge, jury, and executioner within the first few hours of an incident happening, because they don't want you to see the facts. You talked about it earlier. It's who gets the narrative out there first. That tends to be the truth for most people. When in reality, if you wait and you have a calm mind, you'll see the truth out. It'll come out clear. So really what you need to do, when you talk to people that talk about defunding the police, you need to talk about, if we really want to fix those problems, it's actually funding the police. If I send a deputy out, let me give you an example. My deputy leaves his house, he makes $2,500 to $3,000 take home a month, has an argument with his wife about a bill they can't pay, walks out the door, probably already a little irritated, gets in his car, first call he goes to is a 1-year-old who's been molested by his stepdad. What condition is he in? And then the next call he goes to is a suicide because somebody's fed up because of COVID. They can no longer, they've lost their job and everything, which suicides are through the roof. Now what condition is that deputy in? I don't get to send him home. That deputy has to keep working. I don't have the manpower to send him home. So what are we doing to our community? Not allowing, if you want to fix these problems, let me take that guy off the road, but I need more deputies to be able to backfill those positions so that I can ensure that the person that's responding to your call is in the best mental state that he can potentially possibly be in. That's what they should be talking about, not less police, more police. The other issue is things like, and I'm gonna roll into, this leads me into my second thing, but things like sex crimes and child predators. How many detectives do you think I have that handle that? One. I have one. And let me give you an idea of how bad it is. We put an ad out one day of what was a 14-year-old girl saying, I'm bored. It's us, okay? Saying, I'm bored. We had 60 men respond in 1 hour. 60 men. I have one deputy. So guess how many people we can go after? One. And when I catch him, now I gotta write a search warrant on his phone, I gotta write a search warrant on his house, his computer, all of those things to put the investigation together. With one guy. You know, you just can't, I don't have the resources to address something that is a major problem in America. Do you know that 424,000 children were reported missing to the FBI in 2019? And the year before it was 421,000. Nemeh, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, estimates that it is actually closer to about 600,000 because a lot go unreported. Did you see the news? They just found 150 kids the other day, between 3 and 17 years old. They found 150 children. Last year they were finding 40 kids in a house, 30 kids in a house because of Trump's initiatives. Not even a blip on the media. And if you're watching, we're clapping because we found the kids, not because they were missing. Yes?
Are most of those non-citizens?
You've got a little bit of everything. You know, you've got citizens that their children go missing too. There are people that are so addicted to drugs they would give up their children for this. There are children that go missing the old school way of, you know, of the actual kidnapping. There are children that go missing who are 13, 14-year-olds who are no match for a sexual predator online, who convince them to come and have a modeling career, or do these things, and these children go missing. Last year, we shut this country down when there was 15,000 COVID deaths. There was 424,000 children that went missing the year before. Where are our priorities? If you're going to shut the country down, let's shut it down and go door to door looking for those kids.
Yeah.
Although that's a Fourth Amendment violation in many cases, but you can do it. It's not, I can't, without a warrant. It's a major issue, folks. The child pornography is out of control. And what have we done? We said, we got a great idea. Let's keep our kids at home where there is no scientific proof that they are at risk for COVID or death of COVID. It is so minuscule, the percentage, it's almost non-existent. Yet we think, because and this is no knock on, but there are a lot of teachers' organizations that don't want to go back to work. And look, I get it, but you know what? That's a slap in the face to us in law enforcement who are out there doing this job every day. We went back, we never stopped working. We kept going, we have families too. I knew what I was getting into when I signed on the dotted line. Those children need to be in school. Let me tell you, right now they are at the mercy of these sexual predators those kids are no match for these people. And we don't have the resources in law enforcement to go out and find them like we should. We're so busy dealing with these predators, we don't even have the time and the resources to deal with all the sex trafficking of actual adults. I mean, I'm telling you, this is an issue that we have got to wake up as Americans, and we've got to start having these conversations and expressing this stuff to our elected officials especially on your local level. Congress and those guys are so busy just trying to impeach a past president, trying to do all these things instead of just getting out and doing work. And we are being failed miserably in Washington.
They forget that they work for us.
Exactly, they work for us.
It's our taxpayers.
But you know what? We have forgotten that too, and we have not done a good job of letting our voices be heard to our congressmen, our senators. I will tell you, Penny knows this because she works for Congressman Gosar. If you call our offices and we get a ton of calls and messages, I promise you, it's an issue for us. Whether you think it is or not, whether you're getting a return call or not, we feel it. We feel it, and so do they. All of elected officials feel it. So you've got to have your voice be heard. I want to talk about immigration. Who thinks immigration is going okay? Yeah, this is a major problem. I saw an article today that says the majority of the new COVID cases in Arizona are illegal aliens. They're not testing. There's not a single test going on down there. They're not wearing masks. If you see them wearing masks in any of my pictures, it's because we gave them masks to put on. You know what's funny about the masks? I'm just going to say this. Okay, I've never been one of the guys. But I'm like, you do it. Wear a mask if you want. If you don't, don't. Like, that's what I say. If you don't want to go to that restaurant, then stay home. But don't go and complain and try to get everybody else to do what you want them to do. Anyway, it's funny because for a year they're like, you gotta wear a mask, you gotta wear a mask, it works, it works. And then a month ago they're like, you can't, you gotta wear two, because one doesn't work. That's the proof right there, that they were lying to you the whole time. The fact that they ask you to wear two now tells you that one doesn't work. They equate it to, if you wear two swim trunks, the pee won't get in the pool. That's the equivalent. So, immigration is a major problem. When you talk to people that don't believe you, this isn't a political issue. This should not be a political issue. Don't engage in an immigration conversation. It's a lose conversation. Okay? You need to engage because it's not about immigration. I don't believe I bet you if I went and polled everybody in here, the majority of us would not have an issue with anybody coming to this country to make a better life for themselves. Every one of us would ask that it be done legally. I've lived in other countries, and I've always done it legally. We just ask that they come here and do that legally. But the conversation you should have is it's not about immigration. This is about human trafficking and drug trafficking into this country. If you care about human beings and humans' rights, then you should care about border security because the cartel is abusing these people's rights. They rape the women. They use children as pawns. That's why there's thousands and thousands and thousands of children that what do we do with them when they bring them across? You know what the cartel does? They take a man and a woman and they're like, here, throw these two kids in the car with you. Those people don't know who those kids are, and those kids don't know who those people are. The cartel uses them as pawns. They extort them in, they force them to carry drugs. These are not good people, and they are not doing good things. And that's not to even mention the impact that these drugs have on our loved ones in our communities across this country. The cartel is getting away from crop-based. You know what the crop-based drugs were? Your opiates. Opiates are from the poppy seed plant, and your marijuana. Those are crop-based drugs. They're getting away from those, and they're actually shifting towards the synthetics, which is your methamphetamines and your fentanyl. We have seen a 300 to 400% increase in our county in methamphetamines. Some of these places like Ohio and all those places, Kentucky, all those, I was just in Kentucky this weekend, they're probably seeing 2,000–3,000% increases. Fentanyl. So what they're doing with fentanyl now is they're making these little blue M30 fentanyl pills. In my little Santan Valley, I had to do a video because we had 10 overdoses, 12 overdoses, then 14 overdoses in 1 week. In Pinal County, we have, and my heart goes out to it, there's been 754 deaths from COVID. Last time I checked, that was a few weeks ago. We had almost 800 overdoses. Now, not all of them died, but we had almost 800 overdoses in that same period of time. So, when I tell people, I'm like, my issue is a sheriff, COVID's the least of my concerns. When I go out the door in the morning, my concerns are the increased suicides, the increased domestic violence, the increased overdoses, the increased child predators. Those are the things that I'm concerned about. So these little blue M30 fentanyl pills, they're bringing these in because the average American is a lot more likely to take a pill than to inject it. There's a stigma with injecting drugs into yourself. But a pill is a lot easier, especially with kids. So they're punching these pills out for $1, and they're selling them for $20 to $30 here in America. Okay? In 2018, Pinal County Sheriff's Office, in 2018, we had 0 M30 fentanyl pill seizures. In 2019, we had 677 pills. What do you guess we had in 2020? By October? Twice that? We had between 250 and 300,000 M30 fentanyl pill seizures. You do the math in your head, the increase. This is just Pinal. This isn't Border Patrol, this isn't DPS, this isn't Casa Grande. These are just Pinal County Sheriff's Office. This is a problem, folks. Did you hear him talk about any of this in the election on the debates, the presidential debates? Nothing. Wasn't of interest to him. Have you heard the new president address any of this? No, as a matter of fact, when they asked him what he learned about the border, I would have laughed if Trump would have said this, but he said a lot. That was his answer, and then walked off.
You mean
And I don't, because I don't want to take up a ton of time, and I want to open it for questions. So when people talk to you about this, this is a serious issue that all Americans should care about. Because these drugs and these folks don't stay in Arizona. The majority of those are designed to go throughout America. So when we don't stop them in Arizona, they go into Ohio, Iowa, Michigan, states all across this country. If you go to the Carolinas, they have more illegals incarcerated there than I do in my jail. That's the problem. So these are issues that we've got to deal with. The last thing I want to talk about is our constitutional rights. Who here feels like we've had an encroachment of our constitutional rights? Yes. First Amendment, our right to go to church, to practice our religion. How many of you had to take a hiatus from church?
No, you didn't.
Yeah. A lot of churches, my church is back to like every other week. We have to split it in half so there's not as many people. How in the world does this happen? This is a constitutional right that says that we can practice our religion however we choose. I actually stood up with a church that wanted, last April, they wanted to do an Easter thing. They came to me and said, Sheriff, this COVID thing, our people are struggling. You know, they don't know what to do. We want to do an Easter service. And I said, let's do it. I got your back 100%. I said, but I'm going to forewarn you, the pressure will be immense. Because I deal with this all the time. And they said, oh, no, we're good. We got it. I said, okay. So 2 days later, some of their own parishioners had issues with it. And so it hits the media. Now the media is coming out. And now it's becoming this whole big issue. And we do a media hit. And I'm like, yep, 100% supportive. It's their constitutional right. It says right here. And then they went another day or two, and then they called me on a Friday, and the media was getting ready to interview me. And right before we start the interview, they're like, what do you think about the pastor canceling the service? I was like, I had no idea. I said, but I would have supported him 100%. And I called the pastor and I said, what happened? He's like, we underestimated what you said. The pressure was too much. And I said, look, I get it, but I wished you would have taken the stand. Unless we start pushing back for these things as people, they are going to continue down this road.
God bless him, because when this started, he said, they will take me out dead.
Yes, and there's...
Jesus Christ died for me, I will die for him to prevent from what's going on here. It's terrible. It is our right to go to church.
And the one thing about, and you're right, and the one thing about socialism is if you read books on socialism, they take away anything higher than government. And what is higher than government? God. And they take those things away. They're deteriorating the family, and they're taking away your ability to go to church. Second issue. Second issue is the, how many of you feel like you have the freedom of speech?
I get censored at my own job.
People are losing their jobs for it.
I get censored at my own job. But
So-
I'm American first.
That's right.
I'm American first. They can take that job and shove it if they don't like what I have to say.
There you go. Yeah, and look, what they're doing is they're trying to bully society into believing a certain way. What happened to respecting? America is a melting pot of cultures and such diversity. And to deny that the understanding of that, to pretend like we don't acknowledge that, there is nothing wrong with that. It's embracing those beautiful things about each and every one of these cultures and each one of our upbringings. I heard somebody say one time that was frustrated with how flight attendant, dealing with people. And then the girl's mom said, honey, not everybody was raised by me. And that's the truth. Like, we weren't all raised by the same people. But what we need to do, the fact is, we need to understand that we're different, yet we need to embrace the fact that we're all Americans and we are all in this thing for the same reasons. They're trying to divide us. They're trying to make us pit us each other against each other, and that's just not the American way.
That happened a long time ago in the colleges. They've been going on forever.
Yeah, like, I don't have enough time. I could go on for hours. I mean, if you read Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals, a lot of these things have been taking place for a long time. And look, we've been apathetic to it. We've been apathetic, and we need to do a better job of having our voices heard and standing our ground for the things we truly believe. The other thing is the right to peaceably assemble has been adulterated in this country.
Yes.
Okay? They're trying to make it to where what you saw over last year of burning places down, that is not covered. That was not the intention of the Founding Fathers. These are things that, violence is not the way. The way to address these issues, the Founding Fathers were wise men, and I believe that the Constitution, no doubt, has God's stamp of approval on it. It is a God-given document, and there are ways that we can address these issues without violence. We have to continue to stay the course. I know it's frustrating, but there are ways to... The system was not designed to stack the deck against it. It has two outcomes if you stack the deck. It either breaks the system or the system inherently rights itself. And I truly believe, because of the divinity of the Constitution and this country, that it will right itself.
They want to do away with our Constitution, and they've been fighting to do that for a long time.
Right? Which is why we need to wake up.
And my
We need to
husband
wake
and I
up.
have fought for a lot of years. In fact, we went against the IRS many years ago. Won't do that again, but we did it, and he almost won. And had he won, we wouldn't have them today. And they said that. And they told me, you know too much. You know what's right. I said, it's never been a law. It's never been passed. It still isn't a law. I said, they went around to the farmers in 1913 and said, if there's a war, will you support our troops? Will you pay for clothing, food, ammunition? Yes, what farmer would say no to that? Of course they said yes. So when World War I broke out, they did. They started taking money. And then when that war ended, they gave it back.
Well, the IRS is that's a whole other thing too. Let's stay the course, because this is the key. That's a perfect example of not getting distracted in what we're doing here. And I'm not to say that that wasn't important, but there's focus on what is important. And we need to focus on these things. The Second Amendment is my last thing. The Second Amendment is also under attack. They're working hard to try to tear away at the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment is a perfect example of why it is important that you know who your local administrators are. Same with COVID. That's what's important. You need to know who your state legislators are, your county supervisors, your state senators. All of us in this country have the same Second Amendment rights federally. Yet, state to state, it is extremely different. So that is where the difference is. So you've got to know who you're voting for on a local level. That's where law is made, that's where mandates and orders and all these things are passed. We have got to stand, the Constitution is what's going to hold this together. And I got a newsflash, it's not going to be saved in Washington. It's going to be saved by enlightened men and women of this country who love and cherish freedom just like all of us here. That's who's going to save it. It's we the people.
That's it.
I'm willing to come out. When I got into this job, trust me, I love it, but there are days where I'm like, the cost is heavy, okay? I don't wish running for office on my worst enemies, but somebody has to do it. We have to stand strong, we have to stand up for the things that we love and cherish like the Constitution. I have started to do a few different things. I did a citizens posse, somebody was asking me over here. I did a citizens posse because I recognize the fact that in a case of emergency, a fire, a flood, an insurrection, whatever it be, I don't have the resources. And plus it gives my citizens peace of mind, knowledge, that gives them more, to feel they're part of the sheriff's office. So that's one of the things I'm doing. I started a political action, it's not a PAC, it's an organization called Protect America Now. I hope you'll check it out, protectamericanow.com. I gathered sheriffs from across this country. Your sheriffs are your last line of defense in this country for freedom. I don't work for the governor, I don't work for the president, I don't work for Congress, Senate, I work for the people of my county. And that's it. We have to find good organizations, rally the troops together. We hope you'll stand with us as sheriffs in that organization, protectamericanow.com. When we're done, I've got some books up here. I'm no author, but I believe in traditional values. So my book is called American Sheriff, Traditional Values in a Modern World, because we've lost track of all the traditional values. So I'll be over there. But the last thing I want to say is, we have to be calm and focused on what we're doing right now. The way you take down a herd of sheep is you separate them all out. The wolves will separate them all out. Because it's easy to take one down as opposed to a bunch. And they get you so frantic that you forget and you lose track and you're out lost. Stay focused on it. How many of you read the book by James Allen called As a Man Thinketh? If you haven't, go get it. It's free online. You can get it on like Apple's page. If you can't, you can buy it at the bookstore. It's like a 50-page book. And it is amazing. As a Man Thinketh by, books, who reads anymore, right? Once you've read my book, then read As a Man Thinketh. But the last thing is, you've got to stay calm. There's a quote at the end of the book. And this is what I love this quote. It says, "Keep your hand firmly upon the helm of thought. In the bark of your soul reclines the commanding master. He does but sleep. Wake him. Self-control is strength. Right thought is mastery. Calmness is power. Say unto your heart, peace be still." We're going to be okay, folks. Peace be still. But we have to stand together and stand strong. In my book, I wrote about it. It's not a fight until you meet resistance. Well, we're meeting resistance now. How much do you love America and freedom? That should be what drives you every day to continue to fight for this. I know it drives me, and I'm thankful for the support from people like you. So thank you. It's funny because I actually talked to somebody about that the other day. It would be costly, but it is, and I know what you're saying, and people get frustrated because I'm frustrated too. We're frustrated in law enforcement because there is no law for the state for us to enforce this. That was SB 1070. SB 1070 was giving the states the ability to enforce, it made it illegal to be in this country illegally on a state level, which would allow us to enforce it. And let's say I catch a group of 35 people, which we did the other day. And I'm ashamed to even say this, but we caught 35 people, we called Border Patrol. Border Patrol, they can only keep, so you understand, Border Patrol is not ICE. ICE houses people, Border Patrol protects the border. Border Patrol can only keep people for about 72 hours at the most. At that point, they have to either give them over to ICE or send them back. We didn't have any Border Patrol near there, and ICE wasn't taking any more people, and I can't hold them. If I hold them, that's kidnapping. It's against the law for me to hold people when they've committed no crime, because there is no state law for crossing the border illegally. That is a federal crime. This is why you need to make sure that your elected officials know this, because we need the ability, and trust me, nobody's working harder on trying to think outside the box of how we can fix this issue. And it was sprung on us from one day to the next. It is costing, as a matter of fact, our AG is filing a suit today. I don't know if we're supposed to. Yeah, I think he's filing a suit today, and I'm one of the declarants on it, saying that it has impacted my community, my budget, my sheriff's office. So we're working on it.
What can we do as citizens? What can we do?
Continue to have your voices be heard. Continue to support groups that are standing up for things like this. Get involved. I tell people all the time, some of you have the abilities and talents to get involved politically, some precinct committee, some passing out flyers. Figure out what your strengths and talents are and get active. But there's a lot of different things, but letting your elected officials, your congressmen, your senators hear your voice, I know it seems futile, but it's still needed.
What are the most influential groups now?
One second. People gotta leave, so I want to do the 50-50 because we have hundreds of thousands of Colombian pesos.
I'm gonna tell. I don't like drawing because somebody's mad at me. There's one person happy, and the rest of the room is mad.
Is Pinal sanctuary county?
So he asked if Pinal is a sanctuary county. I don't. So sanctuary county, when I hear that, I think of immigration issues, which we are not a sanctuary county for immigration. We are a constitutional county, and last year, in March, we went through and did a Second Amendment. We are a Second Amendment constitutional county. They initially wanted to use the term sanctuary. I said, don't. How can you tell them on one breath that we don't want a sanctuary city for immigration, and then say in the second breath, sanctuary county for Second Amendment? We are a pro-Second Amendment, pro-Constitution county.
Thanks, guys. Want to come in?
As you know, people know it's live. This is MAAP Real Talk Show with you. As you know, we're just finishing up from Kingman, Arizona, coming to you with Sheriff Mark Pinal County, as well as the Kingman Conservative Republican Meat Club. With that comes to the end. This is host George Nemeh with you, MAAP Real Talk Show. Until next time, I don't say goodbye. Take care.
This is Jenny Jackson with MAAP Media, and I'm here to interview Sheriff Mark Lamb with Pinal County. Hi, Sheriff.
Hi, how are you doing today?
I'm wonderful.
You did amazing.
We're going to ask you some questions. Thank you. It's my first time.
Let's do it. I'm ready for the question.
Okay, so how did you get involved with being a constitutional sheriff and standing up to the tyranny?
You know what? I've just always been a diehard patriot, American. I love freedom. And when I became a sheriff, I understood what I was taking, the oath that I was taking to protect and defend the Constitution. And so I take that oath serious. I don't feel like I'm doing anything special. I feel like I'm doing my job. And what's weird is that we're in a country now in a time where people aren't standing up for what they believe and their freedoms and their values. And And so now what I'm doing seems, it's standing out a little bit more, but in reality, I don't feel like I'm doing anything special.
I think it's special. So what programs are you doing to rally the rest of the world and the rest of the sheriffs and the rest of the United States to do what you're doing?
That's a great question, but my advice is always the same. Control what you can control. If you're trying to control things in Washington, D.C., from your little house and wherever you live, it's very difficult to do, and it becomes frustrating, and you become frustrated, and it's harder and harder for you to maintain your calmness. So control what you can control. Start in your own personal life, start in your home, and then try to take on more responsibility in the community, maybe as a precinct committee member. If in for example, my job, I'm the sheriff of Pinal County, so I can control Pinal County and what we do in Pinal County. That's what I focus on. And we have done things like the Citizens Posse, which help people kind of understand and be less frustrated with what we're going through as a country, whether it's COVID or some of the civil unrest we saw last year, or the notion of taking away police presence in communities. Those are all things that I can fight against, and we are. And then I also started Protect America Now, and you can check that out at protectamericanow.com. I believe that the sheriffs have a very important role in protecting freedom in this country, and so I've gathered sheriffs together from across the country to stand together with the American people to fight for the rule of law, to fight against bad policies like immigration, and to protect and defend the Constitution, which is what we're designed to do. So,
Well, thank you for everything you're doing, and everyone. It was
the People's Champion?
No,
I'm just kidding. No, it's Protect America Now. ProtectAmericaNow.com.
Thank you.
I also, as a producer, have a question.
Yes.
Sheriff, the other day I was watching you on TV, and it struck me funny because they put it on our time to air it. You were talking about the border and the arrest that we had and forged almost 12 or 14. I don't know what the numbers were. Can you tell us a little bit about it before we hang up?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the biggest issues and concerns that American people have right now, which at least in my community and across the state, and I can tell you from hearing people's voices across the country, is the immigration issue. We've seen a huge increase over the last month and a half, basically since the new administration came in. Some of their policy changes have affected our communities overnight. We've had more pursuits with people that are coming into this community, putting our citizens into danger. And more people coming in there's no COVID testing going on. There's nothing going on to protect the American people. And I find that irresponsible. And as a sheriff, my job is to protect the American people. So I've been standing against that, whether it's on Fox or Newsmax or some of these other places. It's because I want to protect the American people, and as do a lot of other sheriffs. So we're standing together. We're asking for the help of the American people as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
With that end, Jenny, I know it's your first time. Finish it and say, see you next time.
We'll see you next time.
Thank you, Jenny.